Captain Elara Voss stands on the bridge of the Ethereal, her eyes fixed on the swirling, iridescent expanse of the Orion Veil. This cosmic enigma has defied understanding for centuries, its secrets guarded by forces no one has yet survived to describe. The crew around her, seasoned explorers and hesitant scientists alike, exchanges uneasy glances as the ship edges closer to the Vale's shimmering boundary. For Elara, this is more than a mission, it's a personal quest. Her father vanished here years ago, leaving behind only questions and a haunting silence. Today, she's determined to pierce the Vale's mysteries, but the price of failure is unthinkable. What lies beyond this celestial curtain? The answer could rewrite everything we know about the universe, or claim the Ethereal and its crew forever. Join us as we embark on this perilous journey, where every decision could mean discovery or doom. As the Ethereal breaches the Vale, the crew is immediately engulfed in a tempest of swirling light and crackling energy. The ship shudders violently, alarms blaring, as the once familiar hum of the engines is drowned out by an otherworldly roar. Elara's voice cuts through the chaos, calm and commanding, as she rallies the crew. Stay focused, stabilize the shields and recalibrate the thrusters. Her orders are precise, but the navigation systems flicker and die, leaving them adrift in an endless sea of shimmering mist. The stars outside are no longer points of light, but streaks of color, as if the universe itself is unraveling. Elara's decision to trust her instincts over the failing technology sparks a quiet tension. Jerk, her first mate, watches her with a furrowed brow. "We're blind out here," he mutters, his skepticism palpable. "Instincts won't get us through this." But Elara's gaze remains fixed on the swirling expanse ahead. "Sometimes, the best map is the one you chart yourself," she replies, her voice steady but edged with determination. As the Ethereal drifts deeper into the Vale, strange echoes begin to reverberate through the hull, low and resonant, like the heartbeat of something immense and ancient. The crew exchanges uneasy glances, their earlier tension now mingled with a growing sense of awe and unease. Then, a faint ping breaks the silence, a signal on the radar, weak but unmistakable. It's an object, or perhaps a structure, just within reach. Elara stands at the helm, her mind racing. Investigating the signal could reveal answers, or invite catastrophe. The choice is hers, and the fate of the crew hangs in the balance. Elara's instincts overruled caution, and despite Jerk's stern warnings, she gave the order to investigate the mysterious signal. The crew, though uneasy, followed her lead as their ship approached the source, a derelict vessel floating silently in the void. Its design was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered, its sleek, organic curves and unearthly materials defying the logic of human engineering. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, their voices a mix of awe and apprehension as they debated whether to board it. For Elara, the decision was clear. This ship could hold the answers she sought, a possible link to her father's disappearance. Jerk, ever the pragmatist, argued passionately against it, citing the unknown risks. But Elara's determination was unwavering, her resolve unshaken. She saw not just danger, but opportunity. As they crossed the threshold into the alien vessel, the air felt heavier, charged with an inexplicable tension. The walls were etched with cryptic symbols, their meanings just out of reach. and the dim light cast long shadows that seemed to shift and flicker. Deeper into the ship, they stumbled upon a chamber filled with glowing orbs, each pulsating with an eerie, otherworldly light. The crew hesitated, their unease palpable, until one of the orbs suddenly activated. Fragmented images flashed before them, scenes of destruction, of worlds consumed by chaos, and a looming, incomprehensible force. Elara's breath caught in her throat as the pieces began to align in her mind. The veil wasn't a natural phenomenon. It was something else entirely, a barrier with a purpose, perhaps even a warning. The crew's unease deepened as the alien ship's systems began to malfunction, the lights flickering and the walls vibrating with an ominous hum. It was as though the ship itself was alive, reacting to their presence. Jerk's earlier warnings echoed in their minds, but Elara's resolve only hardened. She knew they were on the brink of uncovering something monumental, something that could change everything they thought they knew about the universe. Yet, as the shadows seemed to close in around them, a lingering question hung in the air. Had they stumbled upon a revelation or a trap? The Ethereal groaned under the strain of its failing systems, every creak and shudder a reminder of how close they were to the edge. Elara stood in the dimly lit command center, her sharp eyes scanning the flickering displays. Life support takes priority, she ordered, her voice steady but urgent. Divert all remaining resources to keep us breathing. The engineers scrambled, their faces tense with the weight of dwindling supplies and the ticking clock. Jerk stormed into the room, his usual calm replaced by barely contained frustration. "This is madness, Elara," he snapped, his voice cutting through the low hum of machinery. "You're pushing us into the abyss for what? Some personal quest? We're all going to die out here because of your obsession." The room fell silent, crew members exchanging uneasy glances. Elara turned to face him, her expression unyielding. "This isn't about me, Jerk. It's about survival. We're out of options." Their voices rose, the tension between them crackling like a live wire. Just as their argument reached its peak, the ship lurched violently. Alarms blared, and the lights flickered before stabilizing. On the main view screen, a breathtaking image came into focus. A colossal structure, its intricate spires and glowing pathways suspended in the void like a city forged from starlight. Elara's breath caught. "There," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "That could be our way out." Jerk shook his head, his skepticism etched into every word. "Or it could be a death trap. We've got no idea what that thing is, and you want to just fly straight into it." The crew was divided, murmurs of doubt and hope echoing through the room. Elara's mind raced, weighing the risks. Approaching the structure could mean salvation or destruction. Staying put meant certain doom as their supplies ran out. The weight of command pressed down on her, every second stretching into an eternity. Her decision in this moment would determine whether they lived or died in the unforgiving expanse of the Orion Veil. The tension in the air was palpable, each crew member holding their breath as Elara's gaze hardened with resolve. Whatever came next, there would be no turning back. As the Ethereal glides silently toward the alien structure, Elara's determination remains unwavering, even as Jerk's protests echo through the command deck. The colossal architecture looms larger with every passing moment, its towering spires and intricate bridges shimmering with an otherworldly iridescence that seems to shift and dance in the faint starlight. The crew's instruments pick up faint energy pulses, a subtle but unmistakable sign that this place is not as dormant as it first appeared. Elara wastes no time, assembling a small team to venture inside. Jarek, though visibly uneasy, reluctantly joins her, his stern warnings about the dangers of curiosity falling on deaf ears. Stepping into the structure feels like crossing into another realm. The air is thick with an almost electric tension, and the walls are lined with the same cryptic symbols that had marked the derelict ship. Elara's fascination grows with every step, her mind racing to piece together the meaning behind the intricate patterns. She's certain these symbols hold the key to her father's disappearance, a puzzle she's been desperate to solve. Jarek, ever the pragmatist, urges her to keep their mission focused on survival, but the structure itself seems to have other plans. As Elara moves deeper, the pathways shift and realign, as if guided by her presence, revealing hidden chambers and new layers of mystery. The air hums with energy, and it's clear. This place knows they're here, and it's responding in ways none of them could have anticipated. As the team ventured further into the heart of the Vale's structure, the air seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly energy. Suddenly, the walls came alive with holographic projections, flickering to life like fragments of a forgotten dream. Before them stretched scenes of a civilization long lost to time, vast cities of light, towers that reached toward the stars, and a people whose faces were etched with both brilliance and sorrow. These projections told a story, but not one of triumph. Instead, they revealed a desperate struggle, a war waged against an unseen enemy, a force so overwhelming that it threatened to erase existence itself. Elara's breath caught as she watched the final moments of this ancient conflict. The civilization, pushed to the brink, made a choice, one that would echo across the cosmos. They created the Vale, a barrier not just of matter, but of time and space, designed to seal away the threat forever. Her father's theories echoed in her mind, pieces of the puzzle falling into place. "This proves it," she whispered, her voice trembling with both awe and determination. "My father was right. He must have found this place before he disappeared." Jarek, ever the pragmatist, crossed his arms, his expression unreadable. "Even if he did, Elara, we're not equipped to deal with whatever this is. We need to get back to the Ethereal before this place decides we're part of the problem." His words carried the weight of caution, but also the unspoken fear that they were meddling with forces beyond their understanding. Before the team could retreat, the space around them shifted. A figure emerged from the light, a being of pure radiance, its form shifting and flowing like liquid starlight. It didn't speak in words, but through symbols that pulsed in the air, ancient glyphs that seemed to convey meaning directly into their minds. The being's message was clear. The Vale was not a relic of the past. It was a safeguard, a shield against a great and terrible threat. Their intrusion had disturbed something that should have remained dormant, and now the consequences were uncertain. Elara's heart raced as the weight of the being's warning settled over her. She looked to her team, her mind torn between paths. To leave now meant abandoning her search for her father, the truth she had chased for so long. But to stay risked more than just their lives. It risked unraveling the very fabric of the universe. The choice was hers to make, and the stakes had never been higher. Elara stood firm, her resolve unshaken despite the chaos unfolding around her. The team exchanged uneasy glances, their doubts palpable, but her unwavering determination silenced their protests. "We didn't come this far to turn back now," she said, her voice steady but laced with urgency. Reluctantly, they pressed forward, the shifting walls of the ancient structure guiding them deeper into its heart. Before long, they emerged into a vast chamber, its center dominated by a massive, pulsating energy core. The air crackled with raw power, and the ground beneath their feet trembled faintly, as if the very fabric of the veil was protesting their presence. As they stepped into the chamber, the familiar glow of the light being reappeared, its ethereal form flickering with intensity. "You must not interfere," it warned, its voice resonating with a gravity that sent chills down their spines. The activation of this core could unravel the veil itself, plunging this realm into chaos. Elara's gaze swept the room, her eyes catching on something glinting amidst the debris, a small, weathered recording device. Her breath hitched as she recognized it instantly. It was her father's. Heart pounding, she moved toward it, her fingers trembling as she reached out to retrieve the last tangible piece of his legacy. But the moment her hand closed around the device, the energy core reacted violently. A low hum escalated into a deafening roar, and the core's pulsations grew erratic, sending arcs of light streaking across the chamber. Jarek stepped forward, his voice sharp with urgency. "We need to leave Elara, now." His eyes were wide with fear, but she hesitated, torn between the desperate need to uncover the truth and the overwhelming responsibility to protect her crew. The device in her hand felt like a lifeline, a connection to her father that she couldn't bear to abandon. The chamber shuddered violently, debris raining down around them as the core's energy fluctuations intensified. Time was running out, and every second brought them closer to catastrophe. Elara's mind raced, the weight of the decision pressing down on her like a physical force. Stay and risk not only her life but the lives of her team, or leave, carrying with her a fragment of her father's story, but forever haunted by the unanswered questions. The light being's warning echoed in her ears, a stark reminder of the stakes at hand. As the core's light flared brighter, casting the chamber in blinding waves, Elara knew she had to choose. The moment hung in the balance, her breath caught between the pull of the past and the peril of the present. As Elara's voice crackled over the comms, her command was firm and urgent. "Fall back." Now, the team didn't hesitate, scrambling to retrace their steps as the ancient structure around them groaned under the strain of its own collapse. Walls shifted and crumbled, pathways twisting into unrecognizable shapes. The light being, glowing faintly in the chaos, darted ahead, weaving through the disintegrating maze with an almost instinctual precision. It was as if it knew the very fabric of this place, guiding them with whispers of light through the dying labyrinth. Every step felt like a race against time, the ground trembling beneath their feet as the air grew thick with dust and desperation. Back on the Ethereal, the crew monitoring the comms suddenly picked up a chilling signal, an incoming energy wave, massive and unstoppable, hurtling toward them. The ship's systems blared warnings, but there was no time to calculate an escape route. Elara, her mind racing, transmitted the recording they'd retrieved from the structure. "If we don't make it," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos, "this might hold the key to understanding what we're up against." The team pressed on, their breaths ragged, their movements fueled by adrenaline. Just as they reached the exit, the structure behind them gave one final, deafening groan, and imploded. A shockwave sent them sprawling, but they managed to stumble onto the Ethereal, the ship's airlock hissing shut behind them. Relief was short-lived. The energy wave struck moments later, slamming into the ship with a force that sent sparks flying across the bridge. The Ethereal shuddered violently, its engines sputtering and failing. Now, adrift in the Orion Veil, the crew faced a new threat. The recording Elara had risked everything for held the promise of answers, but it came at a cost. With the ship crippled and danger closing in, they were left stranded in the vast, unforgiving expanse of the Vale. The weight of their situation hung heavy in the air, a stark reminder of the fine line between discovery and destruction. Elara glanced at the recording in her hands, her expression a mix of determination and unease. It was a gamble, one that had left them vulnerable but armed with a sliver of hope. The Vale had tested them once again, and now the battle for survival had only just begun. The Ethereal shuddered violently as the energy wave's aftershocks tore through the Orion Veil, each pulse threatening to overwhelm the already fragile ship. The crew moved in a chaotic frenzy, their voices a blend of urgency and fear as they worked to repair the failing engines. Sparks erupted from damaged panels, casting flickering shadows across the cramped engineering bay. Amid the chaos, Elara stood frozen for a moment, clutching the recovered recording device. Her fingers trembled as she pressed play, and her father's voice filled the room steady, yet laced with an urgency that sent chills through everyone who listened. He spoke of the Vale not as a cosmic wonder, but as a prison, holding an ancient entity so powerful that its release would doom the universe. The words hit Elara like a tidal wave, her guilt swelling as she realized the enormity of what she had unwittingly set in motion. Jarek broke the silence, his sharp tone cutting through the tension. We're out of options. If we don't get the engines running soon, we're not just dead. We're responsible for unleashing something worse than death. His eyes locked with Elara's as he proposed the unthinkable, using the Vale's own unstable energy to power the Ethereal. The idea was a desperate gamble, one that could either save them or obliterate the ship in an instant. Elara hesitated, the weight of the decision pressing down on her, but deep down, she knew there was no other way. Do it, she said, her voice steady despite the storm of doubt raging within her. We don't have a choice. As the crew scrambled to adapt the engines, the strain of the mission began to show. Whispers of dissent rippled through the group, fractured loyalties bubbling to the surface. She's leading us to our deaths, someone muttered, the words barely audible over the hum of machinery. The crew's trust in Elara wavered, their faith in her leadership crumbling under the weight of fear and uncertainty. Yet Elara stood firm, her resolve unshaken. She had made a mistake, but she was determined to fix it, no matter the cost. The Vale's energy coursed through the ship, a volatile lifeline that could either save them or seal their fate. As the crew celebrates their triumph in harnessing the Vale's immense energy, a sudden shift in the Nebula's atmosphere sends a chilling ripple through the Ethereal. The very fabric of space seems to tremble as colossal tendrils of light burst forth, writhing like serpents born of starlight. This is no natural phenomenon. This is the entity her father had warned about, awakened by their actions. Panic flares among the crew as the tendrils surge toward the ship, their brilliance blinding yet menacing, threatening to engulf everything in their path. Elara's mind races, She knows they can't outrun this force, and fighting it head-on is futile. Then, a desperate idea takes shape. The derelict ship they salvaged earlier. Its core holds enough energy to create a pulse powerful enough to lure the entity back into the Vale. But there's a catch. Activating the core requires someone to pilot the derelict ship directly into the heart of the nebula, a task that offers no chance of survival. She hesitates, the weight of the decision pressing down on her. Jerk, ever the pragmatist, steps forward. His voice is calm but resolute as he volunteers, fully aware of what it means. Elara's heart sinks, torn between her duty to the crew and the cost of this sacrifice. She wants to argue, to find another way, but time is slipping through their fingers. Reluctantly, she agrees, her voice barely above a whisper as she gives the order. The crew's trust in her wavers, their faces a mix of fear, anger, and disbelief. Yet, despite their doubts, they rally together, each member focusing on their role in the plan. The tension is palpable, but there's no room for hesitation. Failure isn't an option. It would mean the end of them all. As Jerk prepares the derelict ship, Elara finds herself grappling with guilt and resolve. She watches him through the viewport, her thoughts a storm of regret and determination. This mission was never just about survival. It was about discovery, about understanding the unknown. Now, it has become a test of leadership, of making impossible choices for the greater good. The Ethereal hums with activity as the crew works in unison, their movements precise and urgent. The tendrils draw closer, their light casting eerie shadows across the ship's interior. Elara steels herself, her focus sharpening. This is their only chance, and she won't let Jerk's sacrifice be in vain. Together, they brace for the final act, knowing the outcome will define their journey and their legacy. Jerk steadied the derelict ship, its engines sputtering as he guided it toward the massive entity looming in the void. Every second felt like an eternity, the weight of his decision pressing heavily on the crew of the Ethereal. As the ship drew closer, the entity's tendrils began to stir, their eerie glow illuminating the darkness. Meanwhile, the Ethereal system slowly stabilized, giving them a fleeting chance to escape the immediate threat. Elara stood at the viewport, her hands trembling as she watched Jerk's ship disappear into the entity's grasp. The explosion that followed was deafening, a brilliant flash of light that rippled through the veil. It triggered a cascade of energy, sealing the rift and cutting off the entity's reach into their reality. Inside the Ethereal, silence fell over the crew. The magnitude of what had just happened was almost too much to process. Jerk's sacrifice had saved them, but the cost was immeasurable. Elara felt the weight of his loss like a physical blow, her heart aching with grief and guilt. Yet, there was no time to dwell. The mission wasn't over. Elara took a deep breath, steeling herself as she turned to face the crew. Her voice was steady, though it carried the weight of everything they'd endured. "We've come too far to stop now," she said, her eyes scanning the room. "Jerk gave us this chance. We owe it to him to see this through." The crew nodded, their resolve hardening. They knew the stakes, and Elara's leadership was the anchor they needed to push forward. But as they prepared to chart their course back home, a chilling echo lingered in her mind. The final message from her father's recording played on a loop, his voice filled with urgency. The Vale's secrets must never be fully uncovered, he had warned. The words haunted her, a reminder that some doors were never meant to be opened. As the Ethereal drifted away from the sealed veil, Elara couldn't shake the feeling that they had only scratched the surface of something far greater and far more dangerous. The journey ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Their lives had been forever changed by what they had encountered in the depths of the Orion Veil. As the Ethereal glides away from the heart of the Orion Veil, a heavy silence settles over the ship. The air feels thicker, weighed down by loss and uncertainty. Elara stands at the helm, her gaze fixed on the swirling remnants of the veil behind them, but her mind is elsewhere, pulled apart by grief, guilt, and the lingering echoes of Jerk's final words. His sacrifice wasn't just a moment of bravery, it was a turning point, one that left the crew fractured and questioning everything. Mistrust lingers in the corridors, whispers of doubt growing louder with each passing hour. Elara knows she must keep the crew together, but the burden feels almost unbearable. Every decision she made, every order she gave replays in her mind like a relentless loop. Was there another way? Could she have saved him? These questions haunt her, but there's no time for answers. The ship's survival depends on her leadership, and she can't afford to falter. Yet, in the quiet moments, she finds herself drawn to the recording Jerk left behind. It's more than just his voice. There's something hidden beneath the surface, a message waiting to be uncovered. When she finally deciphers it, the revelation stuns her. Coordinates, hidden within the veil, they point to something, perhaps a place, a secret, or even a trap. Elara's heart races as she weighs the possibilities. Should she share this with the crew? The coordinates could lead to answers, to a deeper understanding of the Veil's mysteries, but they could just as easily lead to more danger. The crew is already stretched thin, their morale crumbling under the weight of their ordeal. Would this discovery give them purpose, or would it push them over the edge? Her internal conflict deepens. She's torn between her own desperate need for answers and her duty to protect the crew. The Veil has already taken so much from them. How much more can they endure? As she wrestles with her decision, the ship's sensors pick up a faint disturbance in the energy surrounding them. The Veil, once calm, begins to stir again. Its tendrils of light and shadow writhe and twist, as if reaching out, as if it's not ready to let them go. The path ahead, once clear, now feels uncertain. The crew's escape, it seems, may not be as straightforward as they hoped. Elara tightens her grip on the console, her resolve hardening. The Veil may be relentless, but so is she. Whatever lies ahead, she'll face it head-on for Jerk, for the crew, and for the truth she's determined to uncover. Elara stood at the helm of the Ethereal, her gaze fixed on the swirling mists of the Orion Veil. The coordinates she had uncovered now glowed on the main console, a beacon to a mystery that had consumed her father's life. She turned to face the crew, their expressions a mix of curiosity and apprehension. "This is it," she announced, her voice steady but tinged with urgency. "The coordinates lead to a place that might hold the answers we've been searching for. But the choice whether we go isn't mine alone to make." The room erupted into murmurs. Some crew members leaned forward, eyes alight with the thrill of discovery. "A chance like this doesn't come twice," one argued. "What if it unlocks secrets that could change everything we know about the Veil?" Others, however, exchanged uneasy glances. "And what if it wakes it up again?" Another countered, voice low. We barely made it out alive last time. Do we really want to tempt fate? Elara listened, her heart heavy. She could feel the weight of leadership pressing on her shoulders, sharper now than ever. The crew's division was a storm she hadn't anticipated, and it threatened to pull them apart. She raised a hand, silencing the room. "I hear all of you," she said. "This isn't an easy decision. That's why I want to put it to a vote. Everyone gets a say." But when the votes were tallied, the result was a deadlock. Half the crew wanted to push forward, half wanted to turn back. The indecision hung in the air like a fog, thick and suffocating. Elara sighed, her resolve hardening. She knew what she had to do. "If we don't face this now," she said, her voice firm, "we'll always wonder what we missed." "My father believed there was something here worth finding. I owe it to him, and to all of you, to see this through." With her decision made, the Ethereal shifted course, its engines humming as it plunged deeper into the Vale. But as the ship moved forward, the crew's unease grew. Strange phenomena began to ripple through the ship. Lights flickering, instruments giving erratic readings, and whispers that seemed to come from nowhere. It was as if the Vale itself had noticed their presence, as if it were alive and watching. The crew exchanged wary glances, the tension palpable. Whatever lay ahead, it was clear they were entering uncharted territory, not just in space, but in something far more mysterious. As the Ethereal glided into the coordinates, the crew was met with an awe-inspiring sight, a towering monolith, its surface etched with the same cryptic symbols they had encountered before. The structure loomed like a sentinel of the cosmos, silently guarding secrets untold. Elara, driven by an insatiable curiosity, assembled a small team to board the monolith. What they found inside was nothing short of astonishing. A vast chamber filled with ancient artifacts, each one radiating an almost palpable sense of history and mystery. Among these relics was a peculiar device, its design intricate and otherworldly. It seemed to hum with latent energy, as though waiting for the right moment to awaken. Just as Elara and her team began to examine the device, the light being reappeared, its form flickering with urgency. Its warning was clear. Activating the device could unleash forces they could not control, potentially leading to catastrophic consequences. The tension in the chamber was palpable as the crew exchanged uneasy glances, their fears bubbling to the surface. Yet Elara stood at the crossroads of decision, her mind racing. On one hand, the being's warning echoed in her thoughts, a stark reminder of the unknown dangers they might face. On the other, there was the irresistible pull of discovery, the chance to unravel truths that had remained hidden for eons. Despite the crew's apprehensions, Elara's resolve hardened. The weight of her responsibility as a seeker of knowledge, as someone who had dedicated her life to exploring the frontiers of the unknown, pushed her forward. With a steady hand, she activated the device. The moment it came to life, the monolith was engulfed in a blinding surge of energy, the air crackling with power. What came next was anyone's guess, but one thing was certain. The path they had chosen would forever alter their journey, and perhaps the fate of the cosmos itself. As the energy surge rippled through the Vale, it tore open a jagged rift, a jagged wound in the fabric of space itself. Through the breach, a haunting glimpse of another dimension flickered into view, a realm of swirling shadows and pulsating light, both mesmerizing and terrifying. From the depths of this alien void, the entity began to emerge, its massive form pressing against the rift like a predator testing the limits of its cage. Tendrils of energy, dark and shimmering, stretched outwards, reaching hungrily toward the ethereal. Elara's heart sank as the truth dawned on her. The device she had activated wasn't meant to stabilize the veil. It was designed to seal it forever. But something had gone horribly wrong, and now the very thing it was meant to contain was breaking free. Her mind raced as she barked orders to the crew, their faces a mix of fear and determination. "Prepare for battle," she commanded, her voice steady despite the chaos unfolding around them. The crew sprang into action, their unity tested like never before. The entity loomed larger with each passing moment, its presence a suffocating weight on the ship. Elara knew they couldn't afford to hesitate. Her leadership was put to the ultimate test as she began to formulate a desperate plan. The device, now a ticking time bomb, might be their only hope. If they could recalibrate it in time, they might be able to close the rift, but doing so could mean sacrificing the ethereal and everyone aboard. The stakes were unimaginably high, and the crew's trust in Elara's decisions wavered under the weight of the choice before them. Yet, even in the face of potential destruction, there was a glimmer of hope. They had faced the unknown before, and each time they had found a way to prevail. This time, however, the cost of victory might be far greater than any of them had ever imagined. As the entity's tendrils inched closer, Elara steeled herself. The fate of the Vale, and perhaps the entire cosmos, rested in their hands. The hum of the Ethereal's power core grew louder as the crew worked feverishly to modify the device, their hands moving with practiced precision. The air was thick with tension, yet there was an unspoken unity binding them together. Each bolt tightened, each circuit recalibrated, brought them one step closer to their daunting goal. The plan was audacious but clear. Channel the ship's immense energy reserves to amplify the device, turning it into a weapon capable of piercing the heart of the rift. Time was slipping away, and every second weighed heavily on their shoulders. Elara stepped forward, her voice steady as she made her offer. "I'll pilot the ship into the rift," she said, her words cutting through the silence like a beacon. There was no hesitation in her tone, no shadow of doubt. She knew the risks, that this would likely be a one-way journey, yet her resolve never wavered. Her courage sparked something profound in the crew, a mixture of awe and determination. Though fear lingered in their eyes, they rallied behind her, their trust in her leadership unshakable. It wasn't just a mission anymore. It was a testament to their shared humanity, their willingness to fight for something greater than themselves. As the Ethereal approached the rift, the ship trembled under the strain, its energy core flickering with unstable intensity. The entity loomed ahead, a swirling maelstrom of darkness that seemed to defy comprehension. Elara gripped the controls, her father's words echoing in her mind like a mantra. Even in the face of the unknown, courage is the light that guides us. She took a deep breath, her focus unwavering as she prepared to activate the device. Around her, the crew braced themselves, their faces set with grim determination. They knew the cost of this moment, the sacrifices it demanded, but they also knew the lives they were saving. The Ethereal surged forward, a fragile yet defiant spark hurtling toward the heart of the abyss, carrying with it the hope of an entire galaxy. As the Ethereal hurtled toward the colossal entity, the tension on the bridge was palpable. Every system screamed in protest, yet Elara's resolve never wavered. With a steady hand, she activated the device, its faint hum escalating into a deafening roar. In that instant, a blinding explosion tore through the veil, its light so intense it seemed to erase the very fabric of space. The rift sealed with a thunderous crash, trapping the entity within its collapsing prison. But the cost was immense. The Ethereal was caught in the shockwave, its systems flickering and failing as it tumbled toward the nebula's edge. Darkness swallowed the ship, leaving the crew in silence, their fate uncertain. Then, as if the universe itself reached out, the device's energy surged once more. A wormhole materialized, its swirling maw pulling the Ethereal into its depths. The crew, battered and exhausted, slipped into unconsciousness as the ship was hurled through the cosmic void. In those final moments of awareness, Elara's thoughts drifted. She thought of the countless civilizations they had encountered, the battles fought, and the sacrifices made. Had it been enough? Could they truly have protected the universe from such an ancient, unrelenting force? The answer remained elusive, but she clung to hope, a fragile yet unwavering beacon in the vast expanse of the unknown. The Ethereal drifts into the void of an unknown star system, its hull scarred and systems flickering erratically. As the crew stirs from their suspended state, the weight of their survival settles in alive, but impossibly far from anything familiar. Elara, once a determined explorer, now bears the mantle of a hero. Yet, the cheers and gratitude feel hollow against the backdrop of all they've endured. She steps forward to share the truths they've uncovered, her voice steady but laced with urgency. The veil isn't just a barrier, she says. It's a warning. Its beauty masks dangers we can't fully comprehend. Her words ripple through the gathered listeners, a somber reminder of the cost of their journey. For the crew, the days that follow are a mix of relief and reckoning. Medical teams work tirelessly to heal their bodies, but the scars left on their spirits are slower to mend. Elara, in particular, carries a burden that no medicine can ease. The loss of Jerk haunts her, as do the memories of those who didn't return. In quiet moments, she replays every decision, every moment she could have acted differently. But amidst the guilt, a resolve begins to take root. She turns her grief into purpose, vowing to honor the sacrifices made by continuing her father's work. The Vale's secrets are not ours to claim, she tells her crewmates, her voice firm yet tinged with sorrow. But we can ensure no one else suffers the same fate. As the Ethereal rests in the shadow of an alien sun, the crew begins to piece together their lives. Bonds forged in the depths of the Vale grow stronger, and though the journey has left them changed, they find solace in each other. Elara, guided by her father's legacy, begins to chart a new course, one that seeks not to conquer the unknown, but to protect it. The Vale remains a mystery, its depths still uncharted, but its dangers will not be forgotten. And in the silence of the stars, Elara finds a fragile peace, knowing that their journey, though fraught with loss, has not been in vain. Elara stood on the observation deck of the Ethereal, the vast expanse of stars stretching endlessly before her. The journey through the Orion Veil had come to an end, and the crew had returned home, but nothing was quite the same. They had ventured into the unknown, and the Veil had left its mark on each of them, reshaping their understanding of the universe and their place within it. For Elara, the quest for answers had brought a kind of closure, but it had also opened doors to questions she hadn't known to ask. The mysteries of the cosmos were vast, and some secrets, she realized, were never meant to be fully unraveled. As she gazed out at the stars, her mind wandered back to the moments that had defined their journey, the sacrifices made, the risks taken, and the bonds forged in the face of the unknown. Each step had been a lesson, a reminder of how small they were in the grand tapestry of existence. Yet, it was in that smallness that she found a strange sense of peace. The universe was not something to be conquered or mastered, but something to be revered, a force that humbled even the bravest explorers. The Ethereal drifted silently through the void, its mission complete, but the echoes of the Vale lingered in the hearts of its crew. Elara knew they would carry those echoes with them wherever they went, a quiet reminder of the journey they had shared and the truths they had glimpsed. Some of those truths were beautiful, others unsettling, but all had shaped them in ways they were still beginning to understand. As the ship sailed onward, Elara felt a quiet resolve settle over her. Her journey had ended, but the cosmos held endless possibilities, waiting for those daring enough to explore them. The stars would always call to those with curious hearts, and the Vale had taught her that the greatest discoveries often lie in the spaces between what we know and what we cannot yet comprehend. The universe was vast, mysterious, and ever-changing, and Elara knew that her journey was just one small part of its infinite story. For now, though, she allowed herself a moment of stillness, her eyes tracing the constellations above. The Ethereal carried her forward, not toward an ending, but toward the next chapter of an endless adventure. The Vale had changed her, but it had also given her something precious, a deeper connection to the cosmos, and a quiet understanding that the greatest mysteries are often the ones we carry within us.